PwC study is a snapshot of that mindset. AI is treated as non-negotiable, a race that must be run regardless of collateral issues. For workers and the public, that matters because it clarifies why new rollouts keep arriving despite all the warning signs. In simple terms, public safety talk does not automatically change the market incentives that drive product timelines. And those incentives affect more than abstract corporate strategy. They shape the stability of entire professions, altering who remains employable and who is pushed aside. As firms compete to deploy faster, the consequences are absorbed by ordinary people who must navigate the fallout: financial, social, and emotional. The risks extend beyond industries and headlines, and increasingly into people's day-to-day lives. That reality sets the stage for what many are experiencing right now: the personal costs of being left behind in an economy that prizes acceleration over protection. While executives debate market share and positioning, workers and families are the ones absorbing the shockwaves. And the heaviest weight does not always show up in balance sheets. It shows up in what unemployment does to identity, confidence, and mental health. The psychological cost of vanishing work. The deeper cost of AI-driven layoffs doesn't show up in profit reports or company statements. It shows up in how people live day to day. The paycheck matters, but what vanishes with it is just as important: structure, purpose, and identity. For most of modern history, work did more than sustain livelihoods. It gave people a way to define themselves, to claim standing within their communities, and to map out their contributions to society. In 2025, as entire job categories destabilize more quickly than expected, the psychological strain is becoming as pressing as the economic one. Teachers illustrate this tension vividly. For many, their work wasn't simply employment. It was a mission tied to guiding students and building futures. When institutions tighten budgets and experiment with AI tutoring systems marketed as personalized education, teachers discover that skills honed across decades are suddenly symbolized as something disposable, replaced by an app. It's not just income that disappears, but the role itself, the daily interactions, the authority of the classroom, the rituals that gave meaning. Packing up an office after 20 years of service isn't just a logistical process. To a teacher who once introduced themselves proudly by their profession, it feels like their entire sense of usefulness is being dismantled. Programmers experience something different but equally destabilizing. A decade earlier, governments and employers promoted coding as the future-proof route, a firm skill set in a digital era. Boot camps, retraining programs, and degrees poured time, money, and expectations into preparing a workforce for jobs thought to be safe for decades. Thousands internalized programming as identity, the prestigious language of the future. Then generative AI systems began writing functional code in moments, producing outputs that stunned audiences and triggered workforce cuts. For a young developer with debt and only a few years of experience, layoffs carry an existential undertone, the thought that their foundation might dissolve before they even turn 30. Career planning feels hollow when your hard-won skill exists inside a machine that functions faster and cheaper. Drivers, too, are caught in a parallel unraveling. For truck drivers and rideshare operators, work is defined not only by wages, but by endurance, discipline, and control of the road. Decades behind the wheel become a narrative of professional pride. When early automation began to appear in transport fleets, many see their life's rhythm preparing to stop suddenly. The transition isn't a matter of retraining for another office job. For someone whose identity was shaped on the road, the loss of control isn't technical, it's personal, a dismantling of selfhood as real as the destruction of savings. Psychological research has long reinforced the connection between unemployment and mental health. Studies link job loss to depression, anxiety, and even worsening physical health outcomes. The connection isn't new, but the speed of AI-driven restructuring makes the shock sharper. Factory declines in the 20th century often stretched across decades, giving people time to brace and reorient. Today, new AI launches can erase tasks overnight, turning cautionary headlines into immediate crisis. The St. Louis Federal Reserve's analysis, for example, notes that between 2022 and 2025, occupations adopting generative AI most intensively have shown higher unemployment rates than similar fields with less adoption. It grounds what many already feel. Psychological strain is tied not to vague fears of automation, but to actual job losses accelerating in specific sectors. Caught in this speed, workers struggle to adjust. The bewilderment transforms basic financial questions into existential worries. Instead of merely asking, "How can I pay bills this month?" displaced employees often find themselves asking, "If my role no longer exists, who am I?" That second question can consume more energy than the first, eating at confidence and stability across entire communities. Young adults coming of age in this time feel the burden most acutely. They are the ones who watched parents preach stability, only for those very paths to collapse within their lifetimes. Now, as they juggle student debts, high rents, and contract positions, they enter industries where their jobs may vanish before they can even build resumes. Career centers scrambling to provide guidance sound outdated when the concept of career itself looks unstable. On social networks, graduates post stories of pivoting 2 or 3 times before signing their first full-year lease. Instead of optimism, the prevailing mood for this generation is fatigue and resignation, a sense of running on an escalator that always pulls backward. Humor creeps in as one way to cope. Laid-off workers joke about being encouraged to try mindfulness apps or receiving push notifications from the very AI tools that eliminated their positions. Imagine losing a customer service job to a chatbot, only to receive daily motivational messages from that same chatbot assuring you to stay strong. The absurdity makes people laugh, but the laughter is edged with bitterness, a kind of gallows humor that grips displaced communities. These psychological ripples don't stop at individual workers. Families and neighborhoods absorb the strain. Parents often feel shame about no longer being able to provide. Children internalize the anxiety of a household destabilized by sudden cuts. Professions that once carried cultural meaning hollow out quickly, erasing not just paychecks but shared pride. Schools once built on generations of teachers now instruct students with reduced staff, leaving children to wonder whether their parents' careers are still worth pursuing. Skilled workers steer their own kids away from the jobs they once celebrated, rewriting community values in real time. Society's lingering cultural norms about work amplify the distress. Status and value remain tethered to professional identity, even as AI undermines those roles. Someone stripped of a profession loses not only income, but also recognition. Side hustles and online projects try to fill the void, but they rarely carry the same standing. The mismatch leaves displaced individuals searching for worth in spaces that feel temporary or hollow. Some drown in overwork through piecemeal gigs, intensifying fatigue. Others retreat completely, avoiding both career ambition and social ties. Neither outcome provides the stability once symbolized by a career path. Stigma deepens the challenge. Being replaced by AI is often wrongly framed as personal failure, a lack of adaptation, rather than a structural shift outside workers' control. Displaced people shrink away from communities rather than open up, fearing the label of being obsolete. Well-meaning friends suggest retraining, unaware that retraining programs are themselves already disrupted. The suggestion to just learn something new piles frustration onto exhaustion. Those who did pivot once or twice feel betrayed to see their new start vanish again in real time. Some analysts and industry figures even predict far greater distress ahead, suggesting that if current trends hold, large swathes of entry-level knowledge work may evaporate. Leaders such as Dario Amodei and others have issued warnings about major disruptions to white-collar employment within the next decade. Whether or not those exact numbers come true, the projections alone shape psychology. Workers hear them, internalize them, and absorb the sense of instability even before layoffs strike their own desks. What emerges is not just scattered hardship, but a psychological climate spreading almost as widely as the technology itself. Anxiety, depression, identity loss, feelings of obsolescence. It adds up to a cultural phenomenon where the definition of self through work is dissolving. The economic displacement is tragic enough, but the deeper crisis is that millions of people wake up unsure of how to measure their value in a society where their professions may not survive the year. If you're watching this and the description feels personal, the next section will matter. We'll examine the roles and places still holding out against automation and map practical steps for navigating them. Because not every industry and not every region follows the same trajectory, and that unevenness is now shaping who feels the brunt of AI's impact and who still has time to adapt. Regional unevenness: why AI hits harder depending on where you live. Why artificial intelligence seems to erase jobs in some places almost overnight, while other regions remain relatively untouched, has less to do with the technology itself and more to do with geography, infrastructure, and policy. AI systems are globally available, but the pace of adoption is anything but uniform. In certain cities, industries topple in months, while elsewhere, change creeps in slowly. What shapes the difference are 3 core factors: how quickly firms adopt new systems, the structure of local economies, and the rules governments enforce or delay. The result is a global workforce moving at different speeds, all while grappling with the same underlying technology. In tech hubs like Silicon Valley or major financial centers in New York and London, adoption runs fast because companies already have the essentials: high-capacity networks, access to vast data sets, and executives racing to cut costs through automation. In these regions, entry-level office roles in finance, publishing, or software engineering can disappear with shocking speed. Managers spot potential savings, integrate models into workflows, and within a quarter employees' watch positions shrink from full strength to half capacity, then fade almost entirely. Here, the gap between laboratory advance and workplace replacement is measured not in years but in months. Workers in these places feel the sharpest shocks, not because the machines are inherently more powerful, but because the environment lets them spread instantly. By contrast, smaller economies without dense investment corridors or technical infrastructure often hang on to traditional labor longer. In regions where new systems are expensive to maintain, businesses hesitate to replace workers. Sometimes governments add further breaks with protective labor policies or subsidies, preventing a sudden shift. A rural farmer may read about autonomous tractors in trade publications, but still drives the same machine as last decade, because parts and authorized repair networks are unavailable locally. The internet might give theoretical access to every AI tool, but real use depends on whether enough support exists to make adoption practical. Geography and infrastructure carve deep divides in what people experience, even under a single global cloud architecture. One clear example of this unevenness is found in customer service industries. The Philippines became a global call center hub, building hundreds of thousands of jobs around outsourced customer support. For years, those roles seemed secure because they relied on tone, empathy, and language nuance. But as conversational AI matured, overseas corporations began shifting contracts toward automated systems capable of answering routine questions at scale. Because the outsourcing model is designed to respond to global corporate demand, the shift hit hard and fast. Workers trained extensively in communication skills suddenly found themselves outcompeted by subscription-based software priced below a human team's salary. That moment became a national labor crisis, illustrating how whole sectors tightly bound to global supply chains can unravel swiftly when clients embrace automation. In the United States, the sharper industrial shock came through manufacturing. Robotics had long been a factor, but new AI-driven systems accelerated by adapting on the assembly line in real time. Machines handle irregular shapes, adjust to variations, and work continuously without fatigue. Communities in the Midwest and South, once anchored by human-run factories, now face automation hollowing out payrolls. Towns watch warehouses and plants go lights out with only skeleton human staff, creating resentment when they see similar jobs still present in slower adopting regions. The uneven rollout highlights that automation does not arrive everywhere at once. Even within one country, geography and capital concentration determine who feels it first. Europe adds another layer with regulation. The European Union has pursued what it calls the AI Act, introducing guardrails and compliance structures before mass deployment. In practice, this means slower releases in sensitive areas. Corporations hesitate to roll out experimental tools when they must navigate lengthy approval processes or face penalties for bias. For workers, that caution acts as a buffer. Jobs stretch further into the future, but it comes at a cost. Businesses complain about competitive disadvantage compared to American or Asian counterparts, and employees know the protections provide only temporary delay. Regulatory oversight buys time, but it does not stop adoption. It only reschedules its arrival. Asia's landscape stands apart in its intensity. Countries like South Korea, China, and Japan treat automation as a leapfrogging opportunity. Entire logistical sectors integrate AI at scale, often with state encouragement. Retail, manufacturing, and transit see rapid deployment, with citizens adapting quickly to shared spaces where robots and humans mix. Resistance tends to be lower, partly because modernization and competitiveness are emphasized by national policy. For individual workers, this means reduced chances of gradual transitions. Instead of a slow drift, roles transform in step with government-driven timetables. People adapt less by resisting, and more by acknowledging the systems will arrive regardless of local hesitation. Across these regions, a deeper pattern explains why certain industries collapse first: the data paradox. Jobs fall fastest where abundant, clean digital records already exist to train AI systems. Software engineering, financial analysis, and customer support all fit this description. They generate structured data, repeated patterns, and clear success metrics. By contrast, sectors like construction, on-site healthcare, or skilled trades face more friction. Their data is fragmented, protected by privacy rules, or messy because of physical unpredictability. A hospital ward cannot be standardized as easily as a dataset of tax returns, and a renovation project rarely mirrors another closely enough for easy automation. Workers in those fields may see slower job erosion not because they're untouchable, but because their environments resist conversion into clean, algorithm-friendly learning material. For individuals, these uneven rollouts carry practical consequences. If you live in a region where firms sit at the front of adoption, think downtown technology hubs or financial corridors, expect faster transitions and prepare for new roles to become volatile quickly. In slower-moving regions or more regulated economies, change arrives later, but the shadow of disruption remains. Planning means recognizing whether your work environment is on the leading edge or still sheltered, then acting in line with that timeline. Geography, more than most people expect, remains a decisive filter over how AI alters a livelihood. Humor sometimes captures this divide best. Walk through a central business district in one city, and you might see autonomous delivery robots circling sidewalks or restaurants testing robotic servers. 2 hours away, a smaller town might still struggle with updating payment systems or managing basic connectivity. The contrast is striking. Progress and delay coexisting side by side, each shaping local expectations. Both environments feel the weight of AI, but on staggered timetables that affect not just jobs, but also how people imagine their futures. The psychological weight of uneven adoption also differs by region. In hotspots where change accelerates, workers face whiplash as roles transform at breakneck speeds. The stress lies in constant adaptation, rapid reskilling, and the grief of seeing industries uprooted in real time. In slower adopting societies, anxiety takes a different form, dread and anticipation. People follow news elsewhere, knowing eventually the same tools will arrive. They worry not because jobs have already gone, but because they see the countdown ticking. Whether through sudden shocks or long delays, both environments strain mental health in different but equally significant ways. What globalization once seemed to promise, a smooth, unified spread of technology, is not borne out here. Instead, artificial intelligence exposes the potency of geography even in a digital era. National laws, infrastructure strength, and cultural openness shape adoption as much as raw technical capability. For one worker, disruption may come tomorrow. For another, it may take years. Both outcomes are part of the same global story, but the timing is entirely uneven. This uneven distribution leaves workers with more questions than answers. Some look to corporate leaders for responsibility, but corporate incentives rarely prioritize local stability. Others look to governments. Yet so far, while the rhetoric about bold action has grown louder, the responses on the ground remain patchy at best. That disconnect between political promise and practical delivery will determine who really absorbs the pressure as the wave of AI continues to spread. What governments are actually doing and not doing. Policy responses to artificial intelligence differ widely, and the variation explains much of why workers feel either shielded or exposed. Some governments emphasize regulation, others lean on voluntary frameworks, and a few push rapid adoption zones where experimentation happens at scale. The European Union's AI Act stands out as a concrete attempt at regulation. The United States chooses a lighter voluntary approach, and China pushes state-directed pilots. Each strategy reflects different political priorities, but all share the same tension. The speed of technological rollout consistently outruns the pace of policy. The EU's AI Act is often presented as the most ambitious effort,